Hey there internets, I'm Michael and this is Toucan Play That Game, bringing you a review of The Siblings Trouble Backyard Adventures by Pencil First Games. So what is The Siblings Trouble? Well, let's look at the box here. We have some kids, presumably The Siblings Trouble, and then we've got some dinosaurs and a vicious looking penknife and some people walking towards a house in the dark. Doesn't really tell us a lot, does it? Well, what the game is a storytelling game whereby you are one of the four siblings trouble, represented here because, let's face it, they're kids, they're trouble. And you are going off into your back garden having an adventure. It's a make-believe adventure, basically, like kids would do, wandering around the garden going, we're going through a deep, dark forest type thing. That's the nature of the game, and if you treat it as such, you can have fun with it. So how does it all work? Well, why don't we take it to the table and I'll show you how it plays. The first thing to do when setting up the game will be to pick one of these four adventures that come in the box. So we've got the Abandoned Junkyard, the Hillside Caves, the Mystic Waters, and the Ancient Forest. And they all have a different feel to them and theming with the types of monsters, etc. that you might encounter, or the creatures, or whatever. So I'm going to do the Mystic Waters here. Then, having decided your location, you create your adventure deck. So you'll use the location cards and the generic path cards in the order given in the inside of the box here or in the instruction manual to create your adventure deck. So here we have our adventure deck all set up for Mystic Waters. We've got spare path cards, we've got spare item cards, we've got special item cards, and then here we've got our different players. So we've got a two-player game here, so we have, as red is always danger, and blue we have adventure. And then we've also got some reference cards just up here, and this is the home card. So people go home if they die in this. If at any point during the game all players are at home, that's the end of the game. And you have to tell a story about how you escaped from the adventure in order to all get home. But in reality, your parents have locked you in the house because you trapped mud in or something like that. But if one of you goes there, you then just spend your next turn describing how you get from the home back to the adventure with everyone else. So a turn is very simple. On your turn, you will. So we'll say adventure here is starting. He will turn over the first card in the adventure deck here. This card will then tell you what you're doing. So here we have the Mystic Waters card, entrance one. If it has a book symbol, that means it's storytelling needs to happen. So here it says, the Mystic Waters hold a magical secret. Describe the magic of these waters to enter. So adventure now needs to tell a little story about what the magic of these mystic waters is and how they enter them. So, for instance, he could say, the mystic waters are joined to all water throughout the world, and you have to make the special symbol to be able to enter. So we make the symbol and enter through a puddle in the back garden. For instance, then it would be the next player's turn who turn over the next card in the adventure deck here. So here we have a card that requires a search. That means you roll this black dice here. If you ever get treasure, you'll be rolling the yellow dice. So the player would now roll the black dice, and he rolled a treasure card. So he'd draw a treasure card to add to what they already have. So adventure already has a superhero cape and danger has a walking stick. So he would now need to describe how he found a weird contraption. So as soon as we've entered the water, we're swimming along and I bump my leg on this weird contraption that seems... yeah, it really is a weird contraption. I can't even describe that. But anyway, so yeah, he bumps his leg on some weird contraption and picks it up. Next person's go. They turn over a card. They'd roll a dice again. You'd keep going through these cards, doing as they say, until eventually you'll find some that have these stars on. That means that they're a challenge you must overcome. It's important to note that that doesn't mean that it's a monster you must kill. It's just a challenge you must overcome, and you can describe how you overcome it. The first thing you do, so let's say it was Adventure's go here, he would roll his dice. If, like this, he rolls his symbol, he will get his special power, which for Adventure means he takes a token and then he re-rolls the dice. If you roll stars, you need the number of stars equal to the challenge rating on the card. So he rolled 3 stars. However, he does have an item he could use to give him bonuses. So you would then use any items to give you bonuses and the dice that you rolled to describe how you beated the challenge here. So in this case it was the magic seahorse, and he's going to use his superhero cape. So he takes off his cape and ties it round the seahorse, turning it into a harness so that he can control the seahorse. So that's his +1, gives him 4, and he has beaten this creature. At which point he then gets to do a treasure roll and would roll treasure. You'll keep playing through like this until either everyone is at home or you get to and defeat the boss, at which point you then have 1 card left, which is your journey home. So that's you describing how you will get back home after having beaten the challenges. So that is how the game all works. So what do I think? Well, let's talk about the artwork. The box actually does quite a good job of showing off the artwork. Not necessarily just purely with these front images, but then you've got images on the sides and also on the back of how it looks being played, etc. And the artwork is kind of variable, but enjoyable. So let's talk about the cards, for example. I mean, if you look at these Mystic Waters cards, there's all sorts of different types of artwork in here, but it's all very playful, family, child friendly. And that's what this game is. It is aimed for 8+, it is aimed for children. So what about components? Well, Pencil First, I've noticed, do a great job of actually having boxes that are the size required for the game. And this is no exception. I mean, we open it up here, the cards fill these, the tokens fill this, the dice fill that tray. And it all fits perfectly, nicely, neatly held. I'm not sure about this whole magnetic box thing. I don't think it adds anything other than expense, but that's just a personal preference there. What about the cards? The cards are actually quite good stock. Everything's really bright, clearly printed on them, and there's no issues there. The dice are a little faded on the colours, especially the red almost looks more kind of orangey, but otherwise really good quality. They're fairing up nicely. The tokens, again, just good quality cardboard there, so really no component issues in this game. What about the mechanisms? What about the gameplay? Well, unfortunately, this is where the game does kind of fall down for me a bit. And it's because it's pretty much a RPG in a box, but they left off the G. There's not really a game here. It is a role-playing experience, but not really a game to my mind. Yes, you roll the dice, yes, you're collecting tokens, but it's all very easy. You're just going along with the flow. The game really is just about the story. The dice aspect, etc., is just to add a little random element in there to give you a chance of failure. But for the most part, you're going to make it, and it's just a matter of making up the story for how you do it. If, however, you want a game that is super open on the story, that gives you a couple of hints. I don't know if you ever did, like in school, you were given a place, a person and an item and told, make a story. That is this game. round after round. And yes, it is a very short game, which is good. And yes, it will appeal to children with hyperactive imaginations who would go and have this kind of adventure, but on a rainy day they can now do it in their house. Or if you want to get them used to the idea of rolling dice to achieve things while having a character that you're making up story for, etc., a la an RPG, if you want this to be, I want to teach my kids how to do an RPG without going, here's this big chunky character sheet, etc. This game is perfect for you, and it is perfect for that. If, however, you are in a group of people who like their dry Euros, have no imagination, don't want to sit there and just tell a story, this game is going to fall flat. And that's the issue for me, that even throwing myself into the storytelling, and I've done a lot of RPGs and I've done GMing, I've done creating that story, but being on the fly there of, and some of the things don't really mesh together, and it's all a bit, it is very childish feel to it. And so it's not a serious, engaging, adventurous story. It's all very outlandish. It's all very, and then I used my pocket watch to hit him in the head or to reflect some light and blind him. It's very creative. It is an engaging, creative experience, but it falls short on being a game for me. However, as I've said, if you want that, this is superb. Now, of course, this is two can play that game. So how does it scale? Well, it does say 2 to 4 players. I've tried it with all the different player numbers. I think the addition of these little chips here that make the boss harder are really sensible, works nicely to help scale the game from the actual little bit of game there is there. With regards to the storytelling, that's the same no matter how many players you have. Maybe with the fewer players you've got a bit more control over the overall story rather than lots of different people adding in. But really that doesn't matter. So this does play perfectly fine for 2 as well as it does for 4. As I say, it's not to my taste, but if you want a really engaging, open storytelling game that's kind of just, as you turn over a card each turn, you get to tell more of this tale, then this is the game for you and you will love it. I do hope that you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. Of course, if you have, please do check out the rest of the videos on the channel, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. And do also take a look at us on social media. You can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching and bye for now.